Hello and welcome to this look at Tyrants and Hellions by 2C Gaming. In this video, I'll cover the book's contents and layout, and provide a personal review of my experiences with the book so far. As a disclaimer for this video, I was provided a copy of the book to review by 2C Gaming. So, what is Tyrants and Hellions? Tyrants and Hellions is a 5th edition D&D supplement that contains 15 unique villains over a meaty 404 pages that can be run from levels 1 through 20. Alongside each of these villains are schemes and minions to thwart, and of course, an evil lair for them to eventually raid. The villains are not specific to any setting, and can be easily incorporated into any 5th edition campaign you wish to run. So let's talk a bit about layout. Overview. This is a section that describes who or what the villains are, how they came to be a force of evil, their motivations and goals, and how you as a DM can present these in play through personality quirks and helpful tips. Power. A handy section that tracks the villain through their development. A villain's power level will fluctuate in response to what the players do to thwart or unwittingly aid their schemes, and what the villain does behind the screen is also included here. A high power level represents the resources a villain has at their disposal, such as how many cultists or minions are under their control, as well as their effect on the world and beyond. Keeping track of the power level is vital to the campaign, as it allows the players to monitor the threat of a villain and lets the DM display just how dangerous they are at any given time. I've personally begun incorporating such a mechanic into my own games recently, as I tend to run multiple villains at once, which, as anybody who's done that before can know, that gets a bit messy and a bit confusing at times. Schemes. This section describes the dastardly plots and plans the villain will carry out over the campaign, along with rumors, plot hooks to get the players to follow the trail, and it also details complications for both the villain and the players, meaning the complexity and difficulty can be adjusted according to the DM's wishes. At the end of this section is the aftermath, which lays out the consequences if the players win or lose, not only for the party, but for the world itself. Scaling. Next is the scaling section, which, like the scheme complications, helps the DM to adjust the timeline and difficulty of the campaign according to the player's level and story progression. It also features some handy advice on how to keep the story on track, and how to speed up the timeline if your group only meets once in a blue moon. Lair. No villain is complete without a suitable evil lair to rest in after all is schemed and done. This section provides a map, room descriptions, encounters, and of course, treasure. Wandering in most of these lairs are custom monsters, meaning that even veteran players will be surprised in a confrontation. Stat blocks and tactics. The custom monsters, along with the villain itself, have their stat blocks laid out here. This section includes combat tactics of both villains and their more powerful lieutenants. Art. For each villain, there is at least one full-colored piece of character art depicting them in all their evil glory, with a few villains even getting a gorgeous 2-page spread showing a full scene. A personal favorite of mine is the 9-tail kitsune spread, which is just so goddamn cool to look at. So, what villains are there to choose from, you may wonder? Without giving too much away, the villains available are as follows. Suitable for levels 1 and 5, the Ashen King, a maniacal and powerful entity that is hellbent on corrupting the peaceful city of Quillkeep, with the aid of a dangerous disease called the Heartfire. The Heartfire can be a blessing or a deadly curse, depending on the player's own actions to help or hinder the Ashen King. Magnon, a mysterious power whose unchecked curiosity can and will cause nothing but ruin. This villain is a great choice for those who grow tired of classic evil archetypes, as Magnon is more of a sentient disaster than a strict force of evil necessarily. Shard of Madness. A contrast to Magnon's neutral chaos is the Shard of Madness, a fragment of something unknowable from beyond the stars. This being corrupts any and all who come into contact with it. Suitable for levels 5 to 10, Amun-Rax the Intrepid. Amun-Rax is an interesting villain that seeks to control the world through the power of the economy. He is a more insidious threat that will spread economic and political discord across the land as his success grows. Gorm the Obliterator. While Amun-Rax can perhaps be reasoned with, Gorm the Obliterator certainly can't. A more personal threat, This villain is an excellent choice for a DM that enjoys to weave their characters' backstories into the overarching plot. Hex, the Minotaur Lord. This one is quite a unique one. Unlike the previous ones, they do not scheme or plot, but they protect what they already have. His domain is an ever-expanding labyrinth, rumored to be the size of a country, filled with treasures ready for the taking. He's a perfect villain for those who love the thrill of a good dungeon run, and the party may find there is more behind this villain than just the desire for treasure. Satomi, the Nine-Tailed Kitsune, a powerful yokai spirit that is older than even the oldest of elves. After her first defeat at the hands of humanity, she awakens from her 1,000-year slumber to take her revenge, or give her forgiveness. It will be in the hands of the players and how they shape the world that will dictate the path of this complicated villainous. The Silver Knight. The Silver Knight takes the concept of villainy and turns it on its head. The villain here is not one single person, but a succession of many who were worthy to take the title. In the Silver Knight's mind, they are a righteous hero, and the party are the villains, which can certainly lead to some interesting encounters at the table. Whim. Whim is a dynamic villain, best used in the background while other things are occurring, and while they may have no hesitation at being brutal when necessary, players may find this foe is best dealt with through a more delicate touch. Suitable for levels 11 to 16, Giblinplip, the Continental Ooze. If you grow tired of complicated plots and fancy a more humorous villain, be sure to use Giblinplip at your next game. This mass of talking ooze is here for two things: consumption and a good time. There's the possibility of a lot of comedic moments of interaction with this villain, and I'm pretty sure this one will be remembered down the line. I definitely plan on using this at some point. Purgos. This villain is the direct opposite of the ooze, a cool, collected mistress of power, patience, and evil, using her arcane might to subjugate those she needs and obliterate anyone who stands in their way. Queen of Air and Darkness. For those who enjoy the use of Fae in their campaigns, the Queen of Air and Darkness is the villain of choice. The all-consuming war between the Seelie and Unseelie courts is coming to a head, and it's up to the heroes and their allies to bring it to an agreeable end. Salister Kane. This sinister, deceptive villain is, like Whim, best played alongside a more flashy villain. While the party deals with one villain, this once unassuming and meek NPC becomes a force to be reckoned with, and perhaps has already orchestrated the downfall of the party before they even know. Zun the Unending. This villain will stop at nothing on their conquest to subjugate the planet and beyond before the gods themselves. Finally, there's one villain I'll be covering here for level 17 to 20 play: Ravelvost, the Apex Dragon. Ravelvost is the definition of a sentient apocalypse. There is no bargaining with this creature. There is only hunger-driven destruction. They are inevitable and world-changing, and it will take the full force of experienced heroes, accompanied by the greater armies and forces of the world, to stop this threat. In addition to this, if all the villains in this book still don't quite fit what you're looking for, however, I personally believe the other additional sections are pretty cool. There's the Workshop, which is a delightfully evil section that lays out how to make your very own villain, complete with fleshed out motivations, goals, and plot hooks for the players to follow in the system presented in the book itself. The second section that I want to talk about is the Archetype section, and this is pretty cool. It gives you some optional character subclasses that can be employed by NPCs or even given to your players if you so choose, and the PCs don't necessarily need to be evil to use these subclasses, but some of the abilities they grant are definitely sinister enough to call a heroic PC's morals into question. So, my final thoughts on the book. Overall, this book is an excellent source of information for antagonists for any 5th edition campaign, and the core concepts and ideas it presents could be used not only for 5th edition D&D, but across tabletop RPGs as a whole, making it one of the most versatile books that you could have in your DMing arsenal. Now, personally, when it comes to villains and big enemies in D&D, there's sometimes a struggle when it comes to the official content, and honestly, there's a lot of really cool third-party creators out there that make a lot of cool monsters, but this really captures that feeling of having this overarching big villain that you can sort of frame a campaign around. and genuinely, it's been useful to me in my own campaigns. Thank you for watching the video and sticking around and hearing my thoughts. If you're interested in this book, you can definitely check it out on 2C Gaming's website. Give it a look if you're interested, and if you do, let me know what you think about it. And if you've ran this book, let me know what your thoughts are and your own experiences of running anything from this in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and again, have a lovely day, evening, or whatever it is over where you are, and I'll be back soon with more videos.